living in the car, being effectively homeless to save money so that he can put it in his business.
Everyone else is just rich and you are like stuck and you're working hard and not achieving much. But the reality is so much different.
You cannot go to random people and say, hey, build me that idea. They will be like, what the?
You don't know how many people did it and didn't succeed.
Oh, can you please, can you check on copper? You are not really more productive. In fact, you are hurting your brain on the long term. Hello and welcome to yet another episode of Masterful.info, a podcast for entrepreneurs. Today we have a different topic. Today we are going to talk about myths around entrepreneurship. Will, for whom is it actually important and why should we talk about this?
There are so many gurus out there who know exactly how you can become millionaire. And we have so much experience. We've seen many successes and failures from our clients. We have done our own projects and startups, and we realize how much bullshit there is out there with those quotes and with nice pictures of millionaires, or even sometimes with successful millionaires, billionaires like Steve Jobs. It's actually relevant for all people who want to become successful. Maybe not millionaires, but at least like wealthy. Maybe earning a few thousand euros a month or even more, maybe even over 10,000 euros. And there are so many ways to waste your time and especially health trying to achieve that. And in this episode, we will cover the biggest myths out there from our perspective, from our experience.
Great. This sounds really amazing because I see so many content on the internet where, especially on Instagram and TikTok, where people are perpetuating this model of like, you have to be successful. You have to sleep at max 4 hours a day. And then you need to get up at 5. You need to run a half marathon. And then you need to hustle. So this actually leads us to the first point, I guess. Hustle culture. What's the deal with overworking? And is it really essential for success? Will, what do you think?
So you need some kind of balance, but still, you cannot start a business in a chilled mode. That's
Absolutely.
That's maybe not a completely myth, but with all conspiracy theories, sometimes there is some truth to that, but it's out of context and it's like overdoing it. You can hustle kind of work a lot for 1 year, for 2 years, maybe a little bit more. But you shouldn't do it for like 10, 15, 20 years because it looks always like, I'm already almost there. I just need to apply this concept from this guru. Maybe like you bought a course, expensive course, and then you think, okay, I am almost successful and then I can like retire. But the reality is you cannot predict oftentimes when you are becoming successful. Even if you are doing the right things, maybe you are not in the right niche. Maybe there is a recession that will keep you for a few years away from the success or from the wealth and so on. So you can work hard, but the important thing is don't risk your health.
Fully agree.
So you need enough sleep and exercise and some social activities for mental health. And maybe speaking of mental health, always check with doctors for your health if it's on the right level. If there is something not going in the right direction, you are going to burn out and things, with a doctor you can recognize it faster. And which is even more important or more overlooked, go to a psychologist on a regular basis, like even if it's once a month or once in 3 months, just to see if your reality is healthy kind of, because from your perspective, you will be the last person who will recognize that you are burning out.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. I think this point with sleep and paying attention to health, especially your health, it's so important and it's actually understated. I don't get the point that there are so many people perpetuating this. Oh, I only sleep like 5 hours a day. I'm more productive. And there's data out there showing you are not really more productive. In fact, you are hurting your brain on the long term. There's like evidence that the lack of sleep, like lack of proper sleep, and especially sleeping less than 7 hours a day on average, it's hurting your brain. And it's one of the main causes for dementia.
Oh yeah.
This is a really important thing. And I can see it myself when I'm working a lot and I have less sleep, I'm getting less and less productive. Like I can still do things, but the quality is significantly reduced. This is one important point in my opinion. Like don't burn your sleep on a long term.
Yeah, and with not enough sleep, your mood will be bad, your creativity is low. So you are speaking with your clients, and you have much less success because you are like not very in your element, not relaxed. You are like stressed out and so really over tired. And
Absolutely.
if the person says something, you are immediately like angry and you cannot control yourself. So yeah, it does make sense like to work more with less sleep and then achieve even maybe less. So you are destroying your health and not even succeeding faster than if you did enough sleep. And of course, there are always like examples. Yeah, Elon Musk, he was sleeping under the table and just working. First of all, how long did he do that? Second of all, every person is different. That's also important with all those gurus who recommend you to get up before everyone else, to exercise. You get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and then you exercise. You read 10,000 books. And then when everyone just starting at 9 o'clock, you have already like a big advantage to them. That works for some people. There are different types of sleeping rhythm. But if you are a night owl and try to to get up at 5 a.m., you will be so tired and so unproductive. So that's another important lesson. Everyone is talking about himself, and maybe it worked for him or for her. But you have to be aware that people are different. What works for others might not work for you. And also, the next thing is, even if a successful person like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk did it and succeeded, you don't know how many people did it and didn't succeed. Survivorship bias.
Absolutely.
So, and to become a billionaire, there is much, much, much more involved than just your productivity and hustling. So there is a lot of luck involved. It's possible to become a millionaire with hard work, but to become a billionaire, you need to be in the right place in the right time
with the right people
and many other things. And we only see those few who succeeded. And if we analyze them, of course, yeah, you have to take the biggest risks. You have to do this and that. But does it really increase the success chances of you personally? You have to think about that.
Yeah, I would argue it's diminishing returns, because also going back to this sleep and sleep less and being overworked and less productive, it can also turn into a vicious cycle, because the next week you're thinking like, oh, I performed so badly. I lost this potential client because I wasn't really thinking about things that well. I need to prepare more. I need 1 more hour. I mean, now I'm sleeping 4 hours a day. I will still manage. So people really have to be careful about that. Also, one important point is actually you shouldn't neglect your social life, because I've seen this quite interestingly. It was many years ago. I was going out with a few venture capitalists, and they also invited one person. They made already a little bit fun of him. They said like, "Oh yeah, he's getting out of his hole today." Like, okay, what is he doing? Hey, he's a day trader. He trades in commodities. And that guy, I'm not sure what his definition of happiness and health is, because even though we were actually out talking about things, having a dinner, having good conversations, he was still not really present at the table. He was actually picking up a few clues. His brain was going wild. He was then reaching out to his personal assistant and was like, oh, can you please, can you check on copper? Yeah, this is one really interesting. And lithium. They're all talking about batteries. So I was like, what the? And they all said like, oh, this is really quite special today because he actually came to one of our invitations.
Yeah, we look at those people, and on the surface, if you don't meet them personally, we think, wow, that's so inspiring to have a nice car, nice apartment, having so much money, so much success. People are listening to you. But you also have to take into consideration that those people might be like psychologically different to you. They might be on the spectrum.
Right.
And even like for them, it works. Maybe they are like, they have crazy focus and they are the happiest when they are alone and working on their thing. And you cannot compare yourself oftentimes with those people. Maybe you are also, it depends. But if you are miserable, what's the point of all of this? If you think that wealth will make you happy, so many people, successful people who became very wealthy, they confirmed that that's not true. If you are not happy now, you will not happy then. And also, oftentimes you feel like you are standing on the back of the wall, kind of like a German expression, I think. I'm not sure in English. But you don't have any chance. You have to power through. Otherwise, everything will fall and you are like homeless kind of thing. And that's overreacting from your brain. If you step back a little bit, you realize there are actually so many other opportunities. Even if your business at the moment doesn't work, even if you have some loans and things, there are always some solutions. And if you like go for a walk, your brain comes up much better with ideas than if you just stare at the computer and try to fix everything. And the best ideas, they come when you are quiet, in shower, meditation, walk in the park, and also communication with like social events with friends. You just give some rest to your brain and give some other impulses from your friends and from speeches. And that can be very innovative and creative.
I think this myth is definitely busted. So we think hustle culture, it's an individual thing, and don't listen to a guru telling you have to sleep only 4 hours a day and then you will be successful. Yeah. Speaking of success, I think another really interesting point, you already mentioned it, quite a German mindset, right? That failure is not an option. This is also quite interesting because I went to school in Germany, and there's one thing which everyone is kind of pushing you because the school system is so interestingly structured that you have to have good grades. So there's like it's not just like one high school you go to. There are different kind of things, different types of schools you can attend. And if you have like really parents who want that you are successful in life, they are going to push you for the top tier schools, for the top tier kind of schools. And they are always like, you better have good grades because otherwise you won't pass the exams that you can go to that kind of high school. And when you don't pass high school with a good grades, you cannot become a teacher, or you cannot become a doctor or like a lawyer, or like a profession in the medicine field, because the school system is structured that way. So there's like a huge myth going around that failure is not an option. And this is also perpetuated by people showing like, yeah, he did all the right things from the get-go. He became so successful, that person, because he knew he had to be at this point in this place, talking to the right people, taking the right decisions. And this is, yet again, you mentioned it before, it's a survivorship bias. You only see those successful people as well because there are so many other people, and you never know what story they are telling you. I mean, you can have like almost like a maze. You were running through a maze to get to your cheese. I think this is also a really good, really important point to talk about failure. And maybe you can tell me about how do you get rid of this failure is not an option mindset, especially if you're starting a company?
I had experience myself actually with both myths. For me, failure was not an option in my first venture and maybe like ventures. So I started with a domain business, selling domain names. And because I was like a student, I didn't have a team and domains. I discovered it's like a lucrative business for one person business, and it was working really well in the beginning. I was doubling my revenue every single year for the first like 3 to 4 years. So I thought, so amazing. I am on the like I'm on the way. After my school, I can just travel the world. I don't need to care about money. But then everything changed, and like Google changed the algorithm for search engine optimization so that domain names didn't play a big role as they used to. And there was also a recession, and suddenly it dropped. And I was like, okay, I invested so much effort and money. Yeah, I cannot just drop, delete those domains. I was trying everything. Like I was trying different extensions, like for Austria, for Germany, for all those countries. I was trying like networking. I was trying everything. And several years I was holding on that. So if I look back, I realized, okay, if I stopped it like after 1 year, 2 years, I would have so much more time to invest and so many more resources to invest into businesses that are growing. And the market you go to social events in business in domain with domainers, and they are talking about how big the industry used to be 5 years, 10 years ago, and how big the social event used to be. And it's like a bit sad, like, oh yeah, it was a feeling of dying for several years. But for me, it was like, okay, I don't want to give it up because like I can fix that. And especially on internet, the trends are developing so fast. Today, there is this platform is Udemy, for example. A few years ago, it was so easy to make a lot of money on Udemy in German market, for example. Some more years ago, even like in English speaking market in USA. But now it's much more difficult because there's so much competition. People are already like fed up with those courses. They are not like jumping on that. And the same is maybe also like with Amazon FBA. In the beginning, when there was little competition there, you could make a lot of money, but limited resources. But nowadays, there is such a crazy competition. The Chinese and like entrepreneurs who cannot calculate properly, they offer too cheap prices. And after half a year, they go bankrupt, but there is always another one. And so you cannot compete on price with those. And price is one of the most important things maybe on Amazon. So you have to adapt. You have to try different things. And sometimes it makes sense just to give it completely up and start from scratch, even if it means you need to work as an employee. That, by the way, as a small side myth, all those, or I've seen it so often that they are laughing about employees, that they are saying, yeah, you are kind of a loser, or you are a slave, or you don't have any chance of success as an employee. No, that's not true. That's always an option. Even if you do it for a couple of years, you just need liquidity sometimes. And you can also get a lot of value from employment. You can get connections, you can get liquidity. You can get like healthy sleep because you don't worry about tomorrow. And you can learn from other projects that you don't like invest your money in. So yeah, don't stay too long in a business that doesn't work. Just to try to pivot. If you have enough resources, you can utilize the lean startup approach,
Right.
where you can test. Actually, to be honest, no matter how well your business working, in my opinion, like 10-20% of your resources you can invest into checking new opportunities. And lean startup approach is a really good approach, not to waste too much money and not to risk too much while trying new things. And we have another episode about lean startup, for now only as audio, but you can check that on Spotify.
Yeah, well said. I mean, the point with the lean startup, I had to think of one project we did. I remember back in the domain name trading era, we had this platform called Smart Domain Sales. And it started off quite differently. And I remember when we opened it up for external customers, and at some point I decided like, okay, let's cut out so many things because we need to just get rid of features and unnecessary stuff in the beginning. And I would argue some would see this as a failure because you had an idea, you had a product, and you wanted to sell this product or service, and then suddenly you're like, oh no, we are not doing this anymore. Okay. Did you fail? No, we actually did a pivot because we discovered the right way was the way we went because no one was really using 80% of the feature set, and now with 20% of it, we are so much better off. And so this is definitely also one of the failure is not an option myths.
Before even launching this platform, we were developing much more like sophisticated content management system that would be optimized for SEO and productivity and like assembly line, creating website as an assembly line. The idea was really great, but after 1 or 2 years, we realized it has too many features, it's too complicated, and the algorithm of Google changed anyway, so the market is not there. And we were speaking with domainers, and they were not interested in this kind of features. So we said, okay, we could spend like 1 or 2 more years to complete this project, but we didn't see much future in that. So we said, okay, we just throw away everything that we have built so far and start from scratch. And there is this fallacy that you already invested so much money, sunk cost fallacy. You don't want to lose it. As long as you're still doing that, you haven't lost that. But in reality is the price is way too expensive to continue in the wrong direction. It's better to cut the losses and start from scratch. And we didn't lose everything because we had a lot of knowledge, which is very important. And we knew how to build the second version from scratch. And it was pretty successful. We had like 1,000 users and 40,000 domains and websites. So on our platform. So yeah, it was totally worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a good point when you mentioned the fallacy, the sunk cost fallacy. And there's also the saying, you don't throw good money after bad money. So if you see that things are not working out, don't be afraid to say, okay, this is really, it just didn't work. So, and I need to move on. So failure is an option. And also what might lead to thinking that you shouldn't fail is also one myth. I've seen it so often, especially like 10, 15 years ago in the startup scene, the self mode, where I met founders and they were like, oh, we are working on the next big thing. I'm like, oh, cool. So what are you working on? Yeah, I cannot tell you because it's so secret. It's so important. We this is perfect. I'm like, okay, but did you already start building? Did you do something in that regard? And then it turned out that those people, they were actually trying to raise money and they were even going to investors and telling them like, yeah, we have the next big thing. It's going to be the next big Facebook. It's going to be the next, you name it. And then they would go to the investor and say like, okay, but we cannot give you any details because please, I think you want to execute it yourself, so please sign this NDA. Investors, they're like, you want us to sign an NDA? No, this is not working. And the main reason why this is not working, they don't want to check each NDA they are getting, because it might be like some legal trap. And besides, the investor, their main job is to allocate money, not to build companies. So, so they have to decide whom to give money to, and then those people can run the thing. And you cannot go to random people and say, "Hey, build me that idea." They will be like,
"Oh yes,
what are you talking about?"
So many ideas out there. It's like ocean of ideas. If you go outside and ask 1,000 people, you will, like, half of those people probably have some pretty decent ideas. And like a small percentage, like 5% of those people maybe even have $1 billion ideas. So for investors, it's not difficult to find great ideas. The most difficult thing is to bring the idea from theory to revenue.
Absolutely.
And that's really, really, really tough. So of course, there are like smaller entrepreneurs. They are out there to search for some inspiration, some ideas, and they might copy it. But there is so much from 100 people who copy your idea, maybe one will go survive at least. I'm not talking about success, or maybe a couple. I mean, but those for successful entrepreneurs and investors, they only copy those ideas that already generate revenue. They are not interested in theoretical ideas. And I think, like, from technical point of view, maybe there might be some exceptions that you invented something, but we are not talking about that. We are talking about some kind of tool, some kind of service that you think it's game changer. But as long as it's in your head, it's worth nothing. As soon as you start testing the idea, and as soon as you start like receiving positive feedback, then it's not about stealth mode. It's about fast execution.
Right.
You need to be faster than everyone else who wants to copy you. And as I said, you don't need to worry about big fish who you might think, okay, but they have more resources. They can copy me much better because they have a whole team. Do you know how many ideas they get all the time? And no one can, from theory, say, oh, wow, that's $1 billion idea and it will 100% it will work. No. So for them, it's like, okay, we will wait until something pops out as a success, and then we will copy that. And people will copy you. That's the reality. So you just need to be fast. And the more stealth you are, the slower you are, because you are not testing your hypothesis, your idea in reality.
Absolutely. Yeah. I fully agree. Some of the people who know me might know that I interned at a VC company a long time ago. And at some point it was like, okay, Chris, you have to sift through all the pitch decks we are receiving. And there were many. There were like almost hundreds a week. And it was so many idea stuff, like 7 slides, PowerPoint presentation, outlining some ridiculous idea. And those people were like, yeah, it's game changing. It's revolutionizing. It's the best thing since sliced bread. But almost none of them had actually built a prototype. And one of the rules was like, if you don't have like a proof of concept, if you don't have a prototype, if you don't have anything to show besides a pitch deck, we are not going to invest, because we want to make sure that we are investing in things that actually not just works, because you never know if it's really working, but if the people who have the idea can actually execute it.
So that's a good point.
So much more important than talk. You can talk the talk, but you have to walk the walk. So this is the name of the game.
So coming back to my example in the beginning, that those success gurus are always making fun of employees and saying, you can be an entrepreneur and become rich, or you can be an employee and stay a slave.
Oh, yeah.
That's very oversimplified. There is a little bit truth to that, I think, because if you look at statistics among the rich people, they are more entrepreneurs. At least if you remove all those like who inherited the richness, but it's also like very simplified. And in the end, as employee, you have certain limitations. It's very difficult to become really rich. You can get small six-figure yearly salary. That's possible if you are like in a high-paying position. But to get like 500,000 or like higher six-figure or more, it's very difficult. But in the same time, as entrepreneur, you majority of entrepreneurs, I would argue, are earning little and are like fighting, like hustling, and not are becoming rich. So a small percentage, yes, they become rich, but also even this percentage. Oftentimes, I've read and I've heard many biographies from successful entrepreneurs, and oftentimes they failed one or more times, and they struggled for like 5 years, for 10 years. The problem, I think, is that the coaches, they are trying, like those gurus, success gurus, they are trying to lure you in so that you buy their course. So that's why they are saying, if you become an entrepreneur, if you are using my advice, you will instantly become rich. But it's very unrealistic.
Yes. This is also one trend we've been seeing a long time for now. This myth, entrepreneurs are automatically rich and all show it off. So this is the typical, someone is posting on Instagram that they are taking the private jet down to Monaco, driving their Lambos, waving off their Rolex, and it's all because they started a business a week ago. This is total BS. This is just a scam. And like you said, this picture is being perpetuated by people, by success gurus. They don't want to make you successful. They want to make themselves successful by buying the story of becoming successful to you. So this is really one myth you really need to be aware of. There's no get rich quick scheme that actually works.
I think usually those who you see as successful entrepreneurs, they are less successful than you don't see, kind of. So they are many entrepreneurs who are doing them for themselves. They don't need this publicity.
Right.
They are focused on their project. They are just doing their thing. And you never heard about them. Like in our industry back then, I've heard like about search engine optimizers who are sitting like in their house, working on their projects. No one knows them. They don't go out for socializing much outside like of their neighborhood maybe. But then there are people who earn money with social media or with their like publicity. And those people oftentimes are less like not that successful, but they need to be perceived as very successful. So they try like this image, like they approach this image of renting expensive cars and spending like a jet or something. But it's more their marketing costs. That's not like, oh, I don't care. It's costs the flight costs $17,000. Easy peasy. For them, it's like, okay, if I invest this money, I might have like this kind of sales in my courses or in my other products. So you have to be careful what you see. And in general, like on Instagram, for example, that's a big issue because we are as humans, we compare each other. It's not good, but we can't stop that. And if you look on like children, the rich kids of Instagram or something, and you feel like maybe like you are missing out, you are doing something wrong, everyone else is just rich, and you are like stuck and you're working hard and not achieving much. But the reality is so much different. It's just a facade.
Absolutely. Speaking of a facade, you can go in LA. There are a few companies, they allow you to rent or like do a photo shoot in a private jet for your Instagram. They're actually promoting this as a service. Also, you can rent a Lambo for, I don't know, $500 a day or a few hours. And then you can take pictures, have a photo shoot, drive around the country, take and stockpile them, and then release them like every other week, showing that you actually own this thing, which you don't. So there are many ways how those people work and operate so that they are showing off a picture which is not reflecting reality. I mean, those people who are really successful, and I'm connected with them on social media, they don't post at all oftentimes. They don't care. Yeah. It's not their thing. Their thing is their business, but not being a public figure or like a persona they're portraying on Instagram.
There is always a small percentage of people who were a little bit lucky. So if you were documenting all the lotto winners out there, you would also feel the whole Instagram. So then you would analyze them. Okay, how do they live in order to win lottery? So you would try to copy them in order to replicate their success, but it's not working. I mean, it's possible to be lucky, to be in the right time. Like if you are just discovered a new platform and focused on that and succeeded there, and this platform goes through the roof, like Udemy, for example, or Amazon or something, or eBay in the beginning, then of course you can earn a lot of money within a short period of time, but it doesn't mean that this person is doing everything right and you have to copy that.
Yeah. Also, one of the myths being out there is if you're an entrepreneur, you're your own boss. No one can tell you what to do. Oh boy, I have heard it so many times when I was introducing myself, especially more back then. I was like, yeah, I'm doing this and that. And they're like, oh, you're your own boss. Wow. So you can wake up whenever you like. You can do whatever you like. And I'm like, no, I still got clients. I still got a schedule. I still have things to do. So in fact, sometimes it feels like I'm even more constrained to what I'm doing right now than what I used to do as an employee. So you still have people you have to be on time and present. It might be that your client's available in the morning, so you have to get up at 7 a.m. and get to your client call or whatever you're doing with your clients at 8. This is not like, this is one of the, I heard it the most when people were telling me like, you're your own boss. Wow, that's so great. Just take time off. Like, no. Have you seen my schedule? There's no way that I can take time off. I need to plan it ahead. So this is really ridiculous, I would say.
Yeah, I've heard some wannabe entrepreneurs. If I heard someone saying, yeah, I want to become entrepreneur because I'm my own boss and I can take holidays whenever I want and I can like do whatever I want, then you can assume that this person will most likely not succeed as an entrepreneur, because in the beginning you have to work a lot and you have very little freedom, and you might even like have less vacations, like less social events, like meeting with friends, than your friends that have a fixed, stable job. Of course, there are exceptions to stable jobs like consultancy and banking, but just we are excluding those. Yes, to a certain degree, after a while, yes, you have more freedom. When you start, like when your business is stable and you are not just focusing on giving time for money, but having a bit more passive income, you build like not necessarily passive, but your team can do that. Then you can afford a bit more freedom or much more freedom, but it's a very long way to go there. It's not very easy to achieve that because you need to find the right people. First of all, of course, you need to find the right business, the right target audience, the right niche. Then you need several years to achieve the success in this area. And then you need to find the right people who can take the workload from your shoulders. And usually you will hire a few people, and like a small percentage, maybe like 10, 20, 30% of those people will be really the right people for that. and you have to exchange them sometimes, and sometimes they make big mistakes and you have to solve that. So yes, it's not that easy as it is. And to be frank, we are not saying that entrepreneurship is bad, but it is important to go into entrepreneurship with the right expectation.
Absolutely.
Because it's tough, and you will have tough moments. And if you come there with the expectation that everything is easy, you just earn a lot of money and don't work a lot, then you will probably be very, very surprised when the time goes difficult, and you will probably not be mentally ready to cope with that.
This is actually what you said with the people hiring. It's a perfect segue to the next myth. Your employees work and you count the money. I have heard it so many times. This is also really in line with this whole you're your own boss, you can do whatever you want. Because also friends of mine who are employed, they have sometimes weird bosses where there's like, oh, he's coming at 2 p.m. and he leaving at 4 p.m. and he already forgot everything we discussed last week. You never know what else is he gonna do. Then at the same time, he hired the right people to do all the heavy lifting and do more that you can all prosper from it, right? So circling back to this, your employees work, you count the money. This is not true. You have to check what is the output. You still have to set up a strategy for your company. You still have to keep an eye on what's the revenue doing? What is my profit doing? What are the employees doing? Is the quality still right? So sure, at some point you can hire people doing all of this, but especially in the beginning, like you said, you have to really be careful what people you're hiring, who you're gonna trust with what kind of responsibility. And also employees, they cost money. Your business is most likely not making a profit from day one. So also employees might get sick. COVID was one thing where a lot of people got sick at the same time. Then there might be other reasons why people are not available. So it's not easy. And then sometimes what we also saw with a lot of startup founders, they are not setting up the structure right. So as soon as they are leaving the office, the employees, they are kind of like wandering around and wondering, what should we do next? Usually boss came in and said like, hey, work on those documents, work on this client, work on this feature. But he disappeared. So let's have a coffee break. This is really one thing you have to keep in mind. If you're setting up a business, you cannot just hire people right away. It won't work most likely. You have to teach them what your business is actually doing. You have to show them the structures. You have to, like, speaking of structures, having the structures they're working and existing in the first place. So yeah, it's not an easy cake to eat. It's definitely, you have to set up things to get in this position, and it will take you most likely decades to reach this where you can really say like, okay, I don't know what to do. I can count the money. And this is actually quite interesting. A friend of mine, I met him last year. He's also an entrepreneur, has been for 2 decades now. And his recent business, it is flying and it's growing like crazy. And at some point he was like, actually, I don't know what to do. So they were also being affected by the Silicon Valley Bank thing, what happened last year when they were collapsing. And they had some money parked, like 250K, I don't know. So he said to me like, okay, this was the biggest priority and the biggest to do for this week. So my CFO was like, hey, these are the 3 options we can present to like the board and give an update to our employees. This is what we should do. Can you just sign off? And then that's what he did. And then after like a few hours, Monday was over and he was like, okay, what about the rest of the week? And I said to him like, this is actually the most convenient position you are in, because everything operational is being taken care of. Even such, I mean, it's almost like a black swan event that one of the supposedly biggest banks collapsing. but you still got time. You're not in a panic mode. You're not losing business because of this. Everything has been set up properly. You can still focus on things you want to do. You can talk to like-minded people. You can go to a conference. You can still work on strategy. You can go for a hike and do this. So everything else is being taken care of. You don't need to acquire new clients. You don't need to fix a bug on a website. You got people for this. So it took a decade. Just to reiterate this again, he didn't found the company the same year. It has been around for a decade now, and it took that long.
The problem is, to achieve that, you need a certain size. If you are too small, if you only have 5 employees, and whenever something happens, or even like 10 employees, whenever something like there is a problem, your employees cannot solve, or one of the employees goes away, is getting sick and stuff, you have to handle it you personally. But if you have 50 employees, then you have managers underneath you who are managing all of this. And that's the level where you have like much, much less work. If you have like a board, you have managers who are doing kind of your job, and they cost a lot of money, of course. If you have like a small business, you cannot afford like over 100,000 euros a year to pay this kind of senior people. So you will still have a lot of work, but still, if you set everything right, you might not be able to retire after 5 years, but you can lean back a little bit. Everything, when it's supposed to be in normal times, everything is working properly, and you don't need like to be in a hamster wheel. And that's an important lesson. So it doesn't come from itself, this like automatization, this delegation. You have to actively work on that. You have to give your employees the right processes, the right freedom also. Like, not to say, okay, you cannot do that because I think you are not good enough. Like some of our clients, they are like that. Né? I'm the best. I want to make the final decision for all the small things. And then you burn out. And the big problem is with that, you don't have time. If you work all the time on daily business, you don't have time to improve your startup, to grow your startup, because you are just in the daily business. You are handling clients. You are so busy with day-to-day tasks that you don't have the capacity to think about the bigger picture, how to grow, which market to explore next, how to test new ideas. So there is a little bit of truth to this myth that you can, if you are your boss, you can delegate, but you have to be realistic. In the first few years, you probably will not be able to do that. You will have a lot of work to do yourself. Even if you have like freelancers who are taking care of certain tasks, you will still there are so many aspects in the beginning of that you have to take care of that you will be pretty busy. But after a few years, it might reduce if you are first successful, and second, if you do the like processes, if you implement the right processes.
And I think if you then think you can walk away and disappear for a year or two and expect that everything is still working on autopilot, I think 2 things. You should hire an interim CEO for this. So someone who is in charge and still is managing everything. And if you're really certain that you don't want to work on your business anymore, you can sell it if the environment allows you to sell it. And if you really want to jump into early retirement, this is also an option. This brings us actually to a new good thing. Really not that good thing. It's risk it all, go all in. This is also one thing I hear over and over again. It's also being perpetuated on social media again, where only the other day I saw someone having a vlog on Instagram, living in a car, being effectively homeless to save money so that he can put it in his business. I'm not sure if this is the right way. Again, it might work. And there are also people giving TEDx talks about this and being on podcasts talking about, oh, I risked it all. I went so head over in debt. I was so drowning in payments I had to do. But you might do this if you're really young, if you have a backup plan being that you still can jump into a good well-paid employment, like working for some consultancy, or like one of the top fours. Especially if you have family and you have kids and you have to make sure that people are, or you have people depending on you. This is a major no-go in my opinion. So you shouldn't risk it all and go all in. You should really make sure that you have a backup plan, that you don't jeopardize your family, that suddenly all of you guys are sitting in a car and have no home anymore because you just had the idea to refinance your home again the second time and put all the money in your sunk cost fallacy. So this is again also a perfect example of the survivorship bias, because people talking about this, saying risk it all, go all in, it's gonna be like bam. It might have worked for them because they had the ingenious idea to sell their home, put it all in Bitcoin in 2013, and then hold it on until now. It worked for them. In hindsight, it's easy to judge that this was a clever idea, but at this point in time, it was the stupidest idea they could have done. Risk it all, go all in, not without a backup plan. Really, this is so important.
Yeah, you can risk a bit more in your 20s when you don't have a family, when you don't have children. But the older you get, you have to be a bit more careful. And yes, it's a balance. The more you risk, the higher success you can achieve. But the chances are always like not so certain. So if it's a few percentage chances that you will become really, really successful with this business. So that means, you means you need like 10, 20. Yeah, that's a bit pessimistical, but on average, maybe 5% of startups succeed. So that's an important understanding. And of course, it depends on the startup itself. The less risky business is, for example, an agency, marketing agency, IT agency, where you just deliver services. But this also means that it has the lowest potential to skyrocket, to have like incredible profits and revenues, because it's like, there is not so much leverage, kind of. You have a lot of competition and you are just a little bit like giving time for money. So you can start with that, with something like that, that has less risk. Because in this case, this will be needed by someone. There are people who require logos, branding, marketing, Google Ads, and so on, and websites. And it's a good way to start to have a basic income. And from there on, you will also generate a lot of experience with managing people, with talking to clients. And from there on, you can start like ventures. You on the side, you can start with lean startup. You can test many different ideas, and maybe it will be the 10th that goes through the roof. Maybe it will be the first if you are very lucky, but maybe it's the 20th. But this way, you are not under pressure to succeed with your first best idea, which makes your life much more comfortable. And of course, there are exceptions to that. Sometimes you test something and you realize, oh, I am onto something. In that case, of course, if it looks like a huge potential, you can try it out and see where it brings you. And as I said, like in your 20s, you can go, like you have maybe from your job, you have some money left, or like 10, 15,000. You can go all in, even if you are really, really believe in that. Why not to risk a little bit more than like, it depends also on your risk tolerance. If you invest all of this money and cannot sleep, then you shouldn't do that.
Absolutely.
If you are too worried. But some people, they are a bit easier with that. Like, you have to be aware of the chances. That's the most important thing. If you only analyze successful people, yes, they took the most risk, but it's not the full picture. You have to analyze everyone who did take the risk. And then suddenly you realize, oh, there are so many sad stories. People who put their mortgage in one investment, GameStop, for example, but they were not the best timing. And suddenly they are they are miserable. They lost their partner because they are partner doesn't understand. They are fighting because of the stress. There are so many not so glory stories that are not visible to us in social media and in media in general. So you have to be aware of that.
Absolutely. And one thing I would like to add to this, if you're young, you can risk more. Think of compounding interest. So on average, we might live up to 90 years, 100 years, depending on your genes and how your lifestyle is. But the more you cut out, or the more you start late and you want to risk and you lose it all, the less you have runway to make use of this exponential growth of, like, say, your investments or your savings. So this is also one thing you have to keep in mind. If you're young, you still can risk things because you still have time to catch up, maybe a full loss. But if you're older and you're like 60 and you decide like to bet everything on the next shitcoin out there, ooh, it better works out for you, buddy. Otherwise, you're gonna be like living in the car.
Sometimes from our friends, I'm surprised to hear that they were earning a good money and then they invested everything, like over several €100,000 into cryptocurrency. And they say like, yeah, it will go 10 times more or 100 times more up. And I think like, why do you invest everything? Even if you invest a third of that or a fourth, you will become like, you will get 5 millions if it goes according to your plan. Why do you need 15 millions?
Right.
5 millions, it's totally enough until the rest of your life. If you're like, you can get like a salary of €5,000 probably until end of your life. You don't need more. But in this case, you invest everything and then you are worried every time Bitcoin or cryptocurrency is going down. You are like, I'm in a bad mood. And then 5 years later, maybe you get some money, maybe not, but it will have such a big toll on your mental health and which is also related to your physical health. Is it really worth it? Scientifically, they have already proven that from certain amount of salary, you will not become much more happier. You will become much happier as soon as you have covered everything, as soon as you don't need to worry about money. But from there on, it's very marginal, and you get used to the car, to the house. So there is no point to aim for 50 millions. I mean, from strategical point of view, like to challenge yourself, you can do that, but not on the cost of risk.
Fully agree. So the last myth of today, I heard it so many times. If you build it, they will come. This is, I think we had so many clients, whenever they had an idea and they wanted to partner with us, executing the idea. We were always surprised to hear that they didn't really consider marketing because they thought that word by word, mouth by mouth, referral marketing will work. And it's basically gonna be viral, and your marketing budget is zero because you don't need to pay for a viral idea. This is just not true. I mean, you can have the best product in the world, but who is gonna buy it if they don't know that it exists?
Yeah. I mean, there are a few exceptions to that, and they are so rare. I think maybe Google is one of the exceptions, but it's also like in the beginning of everything. And their product was exceptional good in the beginning of internet. And nowadays, how likely is it that you are creating Google? ChatGPT, that's the second maybe exception, but they had a lot of funds anyway. So, and sometimes we saw it in Startup Weekend in Cambridge. Sometimes it looks like it's just automatically referral recommendations, but the initial way, maybe. So if you are like we created a small startup through a weekend, just as an idea, like part of a challenge. We created an idea for an app that helps the Japanese people during the tsunami to find their belongings. And this idea went viral because it was perfect timing. We were in Cambridge, and people like BBC and all those platforms, they were reporting about that because it's like hot topic. In those cases, like if we created this business idea at home, no one would talk about it. If we created even like in a small company or at another less famous university, no one would talk about it. So there is first people, like if you are in Stanford, maybe you have connections to media and maybe like to business angels. Your professors know all the VCs. Of course, that's a total different thing. They spread it. Maybe this podcast tool back recently that was so hyped up, where you talk about something.
It died so quickly that you cannot remember the name. It was Clubhouse.
Clubhouse, exactly. And it's also like, it's because it has like those key people in the beginning that spreaded the word, and even until it came to Europe, the word. But still, like the idea was maybe not that great. Yeah, usually if you create a business, if you have an idea, if you create a software, for example, or a book course, you need to think about maybe 3, 4, 5 times more that you have invested in the product itself. You have to invest into marketing. And I think, in my opinion, most projects die too early, even with a good product, because of lack of marketing. And that's why we created a community. You can find it on masterful.info/community, where we explain and help entrepreneurs to find the right strategy for their marketing, because that's where everything starts and ends, kind of. The execution is like not that difficult. If you understand which channels to use, how to use them in the marketing strategy, if you understand your target audience, then you can execute it with your freelancers, with your employees, or you can do it yourself. But what I have seen, two extremes oftentimes: first, not doing anything with marketing and hoping for the best, or doing like, or some other companies who have enough, or startups who have enough budget, they just spread it thin through everything. They've heard, like, there are also maybe some myths about marketing that you need social media, you need this, you need that, and if everyone is recommending their platform that they are specialized in, and if you watch 10 videos from different marketers, you think, okay, I need to invest, I need to be very active on all of those marketing channels, on all of those marketing strategies, approaches. And in the end, you achieve nothing, because people need to see your brand several times. Because if they see you, they need trust. You need to win trust. And if they only see you once, you are one of the ocean of advertisers. But if they get to know you, if you communicate with them like 10, 15, 20 times, then they then remember your brand. They understand, okay, I've heard this brand gave me a lot of value. Maybe it's not only about telling how great your tool is, but it's also giving some value, like advice, and showing that you understand the target audience and the market, like you understand what they need to know, and then you have much better success chances.
Fully agree. I think that wraps it up for this episode on myth busting. And like Will already plugged, if you know any myth on what you heard already, or you want to have it busted, go on masterful.info/community, become a part of our community, and we can discuss what we see out there and how to progress and build a successful venture and be an entrepreneur in the long run.
Yeah, thank you very much, and see you next time.
See you next time. Have a good one. Bye.